In early 2024, 323 drugs went missing from American pharmacies. 323. The highest number this country has seen since we started counting. Nobody voted on it, nobody announced it. So, how did America lose its own medicine cabinet? It didn't disappear, it went somewhere. And today, we are walking the exact route. Welcome back to Supply Chain Mysteries. I'm your detective, and we trace where things go. Today, we are tracing where your medicine went. Because if you've been to a CVS, a Walgreens, or your kid's pediatrician in the last year, you've probably seen it. That little label, temporarily out of stock. Sometimes it's children's Tylenol. Sometimes it's a basic antibiotic the ER needs right now. Sometimes it's a cancer drug a mom is waiting on. And every single time, the answer is the same. Supply chain issues. Okay, supply chain issues. That's the easy answer. COVID hit. Container ships got stuck off the coast of Long Beach. Factories in Shanghai shut down for months. For a while, everything was late, right? Right. That's the answer you've been given, and honestly, it's partly true. The pandemic did wreck global logistics. Shipping costs went through the roof. But here's the thing. It's 2026. The ports are clear, the ships are moving, and there are more drugs missing from your pharmacy today than there were at the peak of COVID. So the supply chain answer, it works for a week, maybe for a month. It does not work for 4 years. Yeah, okay, but that's not the whole story. So let's actually follow the pill. When your pharmacist hands you that little orange bottle, the pill inside has two parts. There's the active ingredient, the thing that actually does the job, the molecule that fights your infection or lowers your blood pressure. And then there's the filler and the coating around it. The industry calls that active part the API, active pharmaceutical ingredient. Plain English, it's the real drug inside the drug. Everything else is just packaging. Now here is where it gets interesting. Out of every 100 factories on this planet that make those APIs, the actual drug, how many are sitting on American soil today? 11. 11 out of 100. The other 89? They're overseas. And for antibiotics specifically, it gets worse. 9 out of every 10 antibiotics that an American doctor prescribes, the one your kid takes for strep throat, the one hanging in an IV bag in the emergency room tonight, rely on an active ingredient that was made in China. Not packaged there, not shipped through there. The molecule itself, the drug, was born there. Which means if one factory on the other side of the planet has a bad week, an ER in Cleveland feels it the following Tuesday. And if you think that's the worst of it, hold on. Because somebody was supposed to be watching these factories. And for 20 years, they weren't watching them the same way. Now, most reports stop right here. America depends on China for its medicine. Scary enough, roll credits. But honestly, that's not the scary part. Because someone in the comments is going to say, fine, then we'll just buy from India instead. India is the pharmacy of the world, right? Sure, a huge share of the generic pills that Americans swallow every day come out of factories in India. Problem solved? Hold on. Where does India get its raw material? Follow me here. India itself depends on China for roughly 70% of the ingredients it needs to make those pills. 7 out of 10. So let me spell it out for you. You walk into a Walgreens for the antibiotic your kid was prescribed last month. You pick up the bottle. The label tells you where the pill was packaged. The molecule inside came from somewhere else entirely. That's not hidden. It's on the paperwork, if you know where to look. The backup supplier? Often the same upstream source. On paper, there's a second country. Upstream, there usually isn't. Honestly, this is the part that keeps me up at night. This isn't a diversified supply chain. This is a single point of failure wearing a costume. So, back to that question we left hanging. Who was supposed to be watching these factories? Here's how it works on American soil. The FDA can walk into a drug plant in New Jersey any day of the week, unannounced. Show up at 7 in the morning, open the door, inspect the line, leave. No warning, no appointment. Now, the same FDA inspecting a plant in China or India, they have to schedule it. 9 out of every 10 overseas inspections are announced in advance. The factory knows exactly when the FDA is coming. Weeks ahead, sometimes months. Plenty of time to clean up. And when the FDA does finally walk in, what do they find? A government watchdog called the GAO looked at this. In its own public reports, the GAO says inspectors catch serious problems in overseas plants more than twice as often as they catch them in American plants. The kinds of findings the GAO itself has flagged: missing paperwork, cleaning procedures that didn't match the log, batches that didn't match the records. Not invented by me, filed in black and white by the United States Government Accountability Office. You starting to see the pattern? Now here is what nobody on the nightly news wanted to say out loud for 20 years. None of this happened by accident. Between 2001 and 2024, there was no single law, no single vote, no single executive order that said, let's stop making medicine in America. It just happened. A little at a time. A plant quietly shut down. An API line got moved overseas. A generics maker got bought out. Then the buyer consolidated. Every single one of those moves made perfect sense to somebody on a spreadsheet that quarter. And 20 years of quarterly spreadsheets is how a country loses its own medicine cabinet. Look, nothing in this world breaks by accident. Every empty shelf has a balance sheet behind it. What we call market forces is usually just a decision made in a small room by a handful of people that you and I were never invited into. 20 years of quiet choices, and the bill is finally landing. America doesn't have a supply chain for its medicine anymore. It has a single thread, and that thread runs through one part of the world, and it is landing on you. Let me show you exactly where. Your copay went up again this year. Your deductible? Also up. That generic blood pressure pill you've been taking for a few bucks on GoodRx? Suddenly, GoodRx can't find it inside a 20-mile radius of your zip code. Your pediatrician sends you home with a prescription and a shrug. Try 3 pharmacies. One of them might have it. Your uncle is on chemo, and his hospital is rationing methotrexate. Your neighbor's kid has ADHD, and her mom has spent the last month on the phone with pharmacies in 2 states. This is not a headline on the evening news anymore. This is your zip code. This is your pharmacy. This is the quietest supply chain failure in American history, and it is coming straight out of your paycheck every single time you refill a prescription. So here is your assignment. 3 things. 1. Next time a pharmacy tells you, "We're out," look at the label on the bottle they do have, the one they can still fill. Flip it over. Find the country of origin. That line is always there, and almost nobody reads it. 2. If it says "Made in India," you now know what that really means. The pill was packaged in one country. The molecule inside it started somewhere else. That's not paranoia. That's just reading the paperwork. 3. The moment you notice it, tell somebody. Your doctor, your neighbor, the comments under this video. Because empty shelves don't become headlines until enough people are looking at the same one. And right now, most people aren't looking at all. I'm Supply Chain Mysteries. We trace where things go. Next episode, we are following one specific pill, from the factory door all the way to the hospital bed. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because in this world, nothing ever breaks by accident.